There's a ton of vendors out there that do a lot of due diligence for us, putting eyes, ears on properties, stuff like that. So I don't have to jump on a plane. And a lot of people get scared of, I can't touch it. I can't see it. I can't invest in it. Well, if you're in a market like Austin, Texas, where I am, where it's so freaking overpriced and we don't have a lot of distressed debt, what are you going to do for deals? You're going to just sit here and wait around, or you're going to go find where the deals are. And that's, my markets have changed over the years as those markets have changed. Bought a lot in Florida back in the early, late 2000s in God's waiting room.
Hey. Hey everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. I am your host, Dawn Benton-Twyford, America's most sought after real estate investor. And our motto over here at Dwanderful is people before profits. So if that resonates with you, you are at the right place. And today we're doing another episode of Inside the Minds of Today's Millionaires. And for those of you that are following this series, you know that I ask some of the most insane questions to people. Less about what they do, more about how they got where they are. Because I know a lot of you listening, especially if you listen to a lot of podcasts, you hear the same people answer the same 10 questions. And like, really seriously, how boring is that? But I'm more interested in how somebody got where they're at, because you may be sitting there thinking like, man, if I just had like this one little nugget, that might be the thing that catapults you to the next level for yourself. So we go back and find out what's inside the minds of today's millionaires. And my guest today is Mr. Scott Carson. Scott, how are you today?
I am doing great, Juan. Wonderful to be here. I love that. The most wonderful person out there, most wonderful investor out there. So honored to be here. Wonderful. I love it. I love it. We all need to be an adjective.
That's it. We do. Yeah, I spent a long time trying to think of like, what am I going to call my podcast? And then I was like, you know what? I should just do a play on my name, because there's nobody named Dwan. So I thought I'll be Dwanderful and Dwantastic and all this funny stuff. And then I kind of sort of did it as a joke. And I thought, well, that's funny. But then now, like, everyone's like, oh my God, Dwanderful.
Branding at its finest.
I had to make my hair pink so that my hair goes with my name now.
I love it.
So now it's just all kinds of crazy. So, all right. So, first we'd like to start off having drinks with Dwan. And what are we having today, Scott?
I have a cup of coffee with a little cream in it this morning here. Cheers, salud.
Cheers, everybody. Cheers to you, Scott.
Cheers to you too.
All right, my family, my wonderful family. We take a deep breath. Kind of shake off whatever we got going on. We have something to drink and we have a conversation, and it's time for you to open your mind and just listen and learn and take some great notes and have fun with me and Scott today. So I am super excited to have you on today. I want you to kind of give us a summary of like what you do now and how people can reach you, because I want to make sure you're in the show notes a bunch of times. So give us like the summary of, who is Scott Carson? What are you doing? How do we reach you? And then we're going to figure out how you got here. So basically, we just want to know, like, what's your deal?
Well, that's great. Yeah, I call Austin, Texas home. So I love living here in the Lone Star State, although I do love where you're at today in God's waiting room in Florida as well, too. So it's my second home. But I'm known across the country as the note guy, because for the last really 13 plus years, I've focused on buying distressed debt, distressed mortgages, and working, as I like to say, to keep people in their houses, turning problem properties into profitable solutions. And, I used to be a mortgage broker, financial advisor, but started a mortgage company with a buddy of mine back in 2004 through 2008. And then when everything hit the fan, as we all know, in 2008, I jumped ships from the origination side to the distressed debt side. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 13 years, is buying distressed debt, buying mortgages on residential commercial properties, primarily trying to keep people in their houses, modifying loans. But we'll get into talking a little bit more about foreclosures and subject twos and all that good stuff. But that's basically what I've been doing the last 13 years. I bought over $1 billion in distressed debt.
Wow, $1 billion.
Over $1 billion in distressed debt. And what I'm most proud of, though, is helping other investors and becoming financially stable, financially wealthy. I know that's a huge passion for you and Bill both out there.
Right.
And that's one of the things. Originally, when I got started back as a real estate investor, I fell flat on my face, was facing, financial ruin, and I think we all learn from those mistakes and those flops. And so I empathize with people that are behind their mortgage, or especially today, in today's market, there's a lot of people that are struggling out there. Don't believe everything that you read in the newspapers, but
I know it.
that's what I've done. We've taught a couple thousand people how to buy distressed debt who have bought hundreds and hundreds. We've helped thousands of Americans stay in their house, or, regrow that American dream from it. When buying a house is the American dream a lot of times, and a lot of times it can turn into a nightmare. And we've been able to kind of kill the Freddy Kruegers out there. So that's basically
the Freddy Kruegers. I love that. Nightmare on Elm Street. Oh my God.
Right.
Am I showing my age now that I know that?
You and me both, Dawn.
I remember when those movies first came out, I went and saw that movie. I was terrified. I was like, I am not a horror fan. I can't do that genre. I just get too weird and freaked out. I'm jumping around. I get jumpy in my own house, and I can't do it. I watch The Walking Dead. That's about as far as I go. Walking Dead is the top of the limit for me. So
there you go.
I like. How do we get a hold of you?
Easiest way is through our website, weclosenotes.com. I mean, that's one of the big things. Easy. You can find out, I've got a podcast. We'll have Dwan on there as well. Her episode will be coming out shortly, or maybe out already. But weclosenotes.com. On most social handles, I'm at one Scott Carson. I'm pretty much the only one Scott Carson out there, except for an English soccer player who's a goalkeeper in England. But for the most part, if you Google the Note Guy or one Scott Carson, you're going to find me out there in any social media and the websites.
So, I am so happy that you're on. And I see it also says talkwithscottcarson.com in your thing there. So if you're watching, you can see Scott has a site there as well. And then, of course, you'll be in the show notes. And my girl Hannah puts you in the show notes 3 or 4 different places. And we make sure your link is there when the podcast comes out. So I want everyone to find out about you. Now, the thing I really love about you is the note thing. I remember when we first started talking, so you are not a guy that goes into these giant hedge funds and just buys a bunch of notes. You actually buy the notes and help restructure people's payments and maybe keep them in their property.
Yeah, we usually target owner-occupied notes. We're dealing directly.
I love that. So will you explain just to everybody what that means? Because I still feel like today when people hear the word, we buy notes, that it's some hedge fund, bank. And I don't think the average investor thinks they can play in the note field. Don't you think so?
A lot of people who have watched The Big Short, the movie out there, they often think it's that way, that you've got to have a minimum of 5 million or 10 million or 100 million. Because you see all these news things like Fannie Mae selling 100,000 loans, or Goldman Sachs jumping into buying 26,000 non-performing notes. And that's, you have those big dogs out there. Now, that's great, but there's a lot of crumbs, as I like to say, that fall through the cracks. So I've bought big portfolios of a couple hundred assets before, notes. But honestly, most of your blue collar real estate investors that are buying notes are buying 1, 2, 3 non-performing notes at a time. They're not buying from the Bank of the Americas, the Chases, the Cities, the Wells Fargos, but they are buying from the smaller lending institutions, some of the smaller investors like me who have a portfolio that we're constantly buying and selling, buying from servicing companies. So when I talk about buying a note, I'm talking about buying actually the physical mortgage that is collateralized by the house. And a lot of investors are buying first mortgages, and some are buying second or junior liens. Now, second space is kind of dried up a little bit because there's not been that many originated over the last 10 years.
Right.
And values have gone up quite a bit. You used to be able to buy seconds for pennies on the dollar when everything was upside down. But these days, the real play is buying first liens and, senior mortgages. And that's what I do. I'm buying one-offs. I bought it on apartment. I bought it on self-storage facilities, hotels. I even bought a boatload of boat debt back in the day. You can buy loans on vehicles. You can buy on credit card debt. But what we primarily stick to 99.9% of the time was we're buying loans on residential and commercial properties. And then our biggest goal is not to take the property back. That's actually one of our least profitable measures. Our most profitable space is actually to work with the homeowner, the property owner, trying to get them to modify, trying to get back on a payment plan, start back over, kind of give them that reset button to kind of shake off whatever bad thing happened, whether they went through a divorce, job layoff, business shutting down, whatever it might be. We really want to give them a helping hand out of that hole that they've dug, because everybody goes through financial hiccups. You know what I mean?
We all do.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason I've done so well as a real estate investor, because I went through a divorce. I lost my husband, my house, and my car, all of it. And I had an 8-month-old baby, and I was like, now what am I going to do?
Right.
So I did it. So I just want to kind of give an example, because we went, and I haven't done it for, I'm excited to talk to you because I feel excited about notes again. I haven't bought any notes for a minute, because my husband and I, Bill, we bought a bunch of buildings in a town in Clinton, Iowa, and we're literally rehabbing a town. We have 15 buildings. So,
I love it.
I've just been so in the zone on doing that. But a few years back, we were finding notes, like maybe someone in Ohio, for example, or the Rust Belt area. And maybe a homeowner had a note that, $50,000, it was, servicing agent, whatever. And we would call that homeowner and say, hey, how much can you afford a month? How much can you put down? And basically just lower their payment and restructure, and then let them stay in their house. Is that kind of what you guys are doing?
Yeah, we have a nationwide servicing company. So once we buy the debt, then we reach out to borrowers to figure out what they can afford. But the beautiful thing is that we're able really to see beneath the kimono, I guess you say, beneath what's going on with the investor, because we're not only seeing what's going on with the property, we see all the servicing notes, what they've said, how they've been friendly to the servicer. Yeah. We look at the collateral files, to see, okay, what kind of payment plans, if they've sent in a hardship letter trying to do a loan modification, or they've sent in a short sale package, or they've tried to list a property for sale in the past. That tells you a lot about what's going on. But it also, when you look at the property, how has it been maintained? Do they have kids? Do you see toys outside? Do you see landscaping? The emotional equity side plays just another big critical part in what we do. I don't really like to buy vacant properties, because they've usually been trashed out, or there's going to be something major to that. And I like to avoid rehabs. I want to have systems in place. So we try to get, the reason we like owner occupied, it gives us the most amount of exit strategies. And so, yeah.
I just love that. You just don't even know. It's honestly, when I first came across you, I was just so excited about that, because it's just been a minute since I've seen anyone on this side of it.
Yeah.
They're just like, buy my program for, $25,000, and you can join us in the hedge fund. It's like, but the average person can't do that.
Right.
And what you're talking about, just an investor with just a little bit of money and maybe your system, and they could get involved in the note game and create monthly income for themselves without actually being a landlord.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is money is always that, it's always that mind block that people have. They look at their bank accounts, and if I got $500, I can't go buy a note. And I know you're a big believer in this. You and Bill both. If the deal makes sense and you know how to market, get the word out, there is money out there. And most people don't realize that a lot of self-directed IRA companies, their biggest percentage of money that's lent out of self-directed IRAs is actually in paper or in notes. Either they've originated stuff, or they've actually bought performing notes or non-performing notes. And that's actually about 66% of the time it's in paper. Yeah, real estate's great, but there are so many investors out there looking for a great deal. And with there being an influx of distressed debt, I mean, I've been buying nonstop since 2008. So there's been
Have you been going insane buying with COVID? Oh my gosh. I don't know that there's a lot that I don't know, because I know on the retail side, everyone's buying like crazy. But by the time this podcast comes out, the bank will have stopped the extension, unless they extend it again. And I feel like there's just going to be this massive wave of people that have kind of just been living off of this for a while, and they're going to really get caught with their pants down.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing you look at. You look at the national default rate right now. We're at 4.2%, which is over double what it was pre-COVID. I mean, it's not where it was back in April of last year, where it was at 8.22. But before COVID, Dawn, I mean, one out of 9 borrowers in America was already at least 30 days behind their mortgage pre-COVID. Okay. And it's peaked. I mean, in some parts like Southern California, it's 1 out of every 3, or at least like 30 to 90 days behind.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's always been people struggling. And yes, you're going to see spike in foreclosures. And it's going to be varied across the country as different states open up and as different states have different foreclosure time frames. You know, like Texas, we do everything fast here in like 21 days versus New York, which is like 3 years in New York. But the thing is we're already seeing an influx of banks and lenders sending over distressed lists of notes to us. And that's the beautiful thing is as note investors, we often see deals 6 to 12 months before it hits the retail markets, the foreclosure markets, the MLS. Yeah. So that gives us a lot of time to, get on the phone with a borrower once we buy the debt and try to structure something that makes sense. And if they won't play ball in one of 10 different strategies, then we'll go the legal route and continue or start the foreclosure process and go from there.
I mean, sometimes you have to, though.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to. So you guys do the note side. You also do subject twos. I'm a huge subject two fan.
I love it. I love subject twos because
I have met like 3 people this week on podcasts that are like super into subject twos. And I'm just always so excited because you just don't hear a lot of investors teaching subject two, but it's like such a great side of the industry.
Well, you look at what's going on right now. You've got such low interest rates. Even if a house is over encumbered, you've got such low interest rates. If your mortgage payment, your full PITI is less than market rent, you've got an opportunity to step in there and either take over a house that you don't have to qualify for if you're looking for an owner-occ, or come in and do a wraparound mortgage, owner finance it, or put a tenant in place and just hang on while the property appreciates in value for a lot of times. But we're probably one of the few note companies that's actually encouraging our borrowers who are behind, who can't get on a loan payment plan. Like, listen, if you have somebody who wants to take over the mortgage, we'll let you sell it subject to, or let your friends or family member come in and take over the mortgage. We're good with that. So yeah, I love subject to deals. It's people, and it all comes down to marketing. I think a lot of people, they like watching HGTV and don't realize that that's not the way real estate works most of the time, that you actually have to get out and market and talk to people, right?
I love HGTV, but I feel like HGTV has done such a disservice to the real estate investing industry, because everybody's like, oh, we're going to fix and flip it. It's like, okay, that's called rehabbing. So when someone hears the word flip now, they think, well, I have to have money. It's like, no, that's wholesaling, flipping. You don't need any money. Like this, the note buying, the subject to is like, nobody knows those things. They just watch TV. You got to buy it. You got to tear down all the walls, do a massive reconstruction, and then sell it. It's like, it's not like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I do love the shows. I watch all the shows. I love me some Property Brothers. I watch all the shows. Those 2 boys are so damn cute. I don't even know.
Hey, where's Bill at now? Come on now.
Oh my Lord. No, he knows. I'm like, hey, those are my secret crush. Those 2, both of them. But it is because it has people interested in investing thinking that the industry is something that's really not.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know about you, but I feel like for us, I think you do too. I feel like our industry for me is more about actually helping people.
Yeah.
It's helping people that are in trouble, they're losing their house, but it's helping people that also want to work for themselves. They want to start their own career. Like, I feel like, we're sort of matchmaking with the houses and, people losing in houses and the people coming in, the investors. And I feel like we're in like a service industry.
So I've been quoted and called by business business insiders, the Wall Street Journal, as the Chuck Woolery of ugly paper, as the, the match game of finding investors to take over properties or working with deals out there. So it's funny that you say that. I said that at an investment club and people looked at me. It was kind of a younger crowd. And they're like, who's Chuck Woolery? I was like, oh, forget it. Never mind.
I love Chuck Woolery. I love that show. Oh, Lord. That is exactly kind of what you guys are doing. So I love that. And so you've been doing this note side for about 13 years?
Yep. I started in 2008 when everything hit the fan, sold my half of the mortgage company. I started for $1 because that was about all it was worth at the time when the big meltdown took place. And just started dialing for dollars. It took me 55 phone calls of dialing banks before I got a hold of one that said yes. And I made 50 grand off that deal. It took a month and a half to do, but 50 grand after getting 49 no's. I know most people would give up to the first one, but I realized that there's opportunity out there and you just have to really pick up the phone and just kind of, reach out to bankers. That's the one thing that's unique about note investing, especially on the non-performing side, is we don't do a lot of direct mail campaigns. They don't work with what we do because we're not dealing with borrowers on the front end, or we're dealing with banks.
You deal with the bank.
you're talking with bankers. We're using LinkedIn, email, and phone calls to really just find out what they have. And that's the beauty I really like about it, is that if I make a connection with a bank, they might not have a deal now, but they'll have a deal in a month or in a quarter. And oftentimes it's just not one. It may be a portfolio of like a 20 notes, or it might be, I got one yesterday of 4,500 notes that I can cherry pick.
Tell me that again. You said LinkedIn, what?
I use LinkedIn, phone calls. I mean, we'll jump on LinkedIn and start reaching out to secondary marketing managers, whole loan traders. They have specific names of these departments that handle the note sales.
They do.
So
what's that department called?
Special assets department, secondary marketing department, whole loan trading for some of your funds. And then you're dealing with the smaller regional banks, they may go by the chief credit risk officer for a specific bank.
Nice. And you just got one with 4,500 defaulted loans. So everyone is listening, if you don't know what we mean by defaulted loan, it means the people are not paying the payments. So it's a non-performing asset in the bank's point of view. So you just got 4,500 in one lump. One
lump. I can cherry pick these. They're anywhere from 6 months defaulted to 37 months defaulted, where they haven't paid anywhere from 6 months to over 3 years.
Wow.
And, they'll go from anywhere from like the ones that are barely non-performing. Some of them have got some forbearance agreements, modifications, those being the 90% of what's owed, but there's a lot of equity. The others that are much heavier defaulted, I have my bid going in this morning on a big chunk of them at roughly 50 cents on the dollar of what's owed.
Nice.
So.
Well, you can't go wrong with that. I just love what you guys do. How old are you?
I turned 44 here in about a month. So.
Oh, 44. You're such a pop still.
It's because I keep my hair short. If I had it grow out, it gets pretty gray. If I were growing a beard, it'd be like almost all silver and black. So that's why I keep the young cut here going.
I would too. Yeah, I gotta tell you, when all the COVID started, I couldn't get my hair done, and I've been coloring my hair forever. I'm just gonna let my hair grow out. I'm just gonna be, Mother Earth hair. Well, after it got about that long, and I saw all the gray, I was like, okay, not happening. I didn't realize I had just so much gray. It's like it's over half. I was like, oh my God, I cannot be some weird gray-haired old lady. So I went the complete opposite, ended up with pink hair.
Well, but the pink is it's a branding statement. I mean, I shaved my head bald. We trimmed it with some clippers and shaved it bald for about a month or two until the hair cutter opened back up and would go out there. But I got to give props to my significant other here, Stephanie. She did a pretty good job cutting my hair.
I love it. It's funny because I've been doing real estate for 30 years. I've got bestsellers. I've been on TV. And now everyone's like, oh my God, I want to be that girl with the pink hair. It's like, really? After all that stuff I have in the background, it's like they want to talk to the girl with the pink hair.
Well,
how does that become my thing?
Here's the one thing I want to put this out there for everybody out there, because it's extra. That's that little bit extra that helps you stand out for the crowd. And if you've ever read Seth Godin's book, Tribes, he talks about that we all have different tribes of people and community and people that follow us, and they're all looking for leaders. And these days, leadership is standing up and doing something different. Everybody's trying to do the least amount to get by or find success. And you're never going to find success doing the bare minimum. And when you do something to stand out from the crowd, whether it's coloring your hair or you're doing videos, you're being goofy or being yourself. Oh my God, such originality. Let's be ourselves these days, right? That stands out from the crowd. We don't need cookie cutters. We don't need another 100 Gary Vaynerchuks, okay? We need you to be you, and that's the beauty of it.
It's, Bill and I speak, I know you do too. We speak at a lot of multi-speaker events.
Yep.
And whenever they have a panel, I always tell Bill and I say to each other, like, everyone looks like a cardboard cutout. We got, 10 people on the panel, and they're almost all guys, and they all have the conservative head, and they have a suit and a tie. And honestly, you could just stick a different head on a cardboard cutout, and it would be the entire panel. And then there's me with like the crazy hair. Bill's wearing his sunglasses inside. He's got that long blonde, and I'm like, we definitely stand out. But
and that's and the most important thing. And here's the thing too: you want to talk to people that are approachable. Too many times they are that stiff, and I think I know shit. I've been doing this for just a year, and I've done one deal, and I know everything. Look, that's the thing, everybody. I don't want to wear a suit and tie. I'll be wearing my Star Wars T-shirt, or I'll be wearing a Robert Graham, or chilling out. That's the thing. I'm just a normal guy, and I'll tell it like it is. I don't want to be the cookie cutter thing. Sometimes you need to throw that on.
It's funny. Bill wears only Robert Graham shirts.
Yep.
He is so addicted since he got his first one. And it's funny because the very first one he bought was some special edition. It was like $500. It was real expensive. Yep. And he called me. He's like, listen, I don't know. This shirts cost so much money. I'm like, honey, spend the money on it. He's like, oh, but it's just a shirt. I was like, listen, you make so much money. Like, he just sort of had this thing about like spending a giant, he's just the guy that spends on everybody, but not on himself.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? Buy the shirt. I think it's beautiful. He sent me a picture. He tried it on at Macy's. I was like, no, you got to buy the shirt. So he bought it, and then he's like, oh, I got to be so careful. And now he's just like, they're wadded up in a ball. It's like 100 of them, But weirdly, as much money as he had to break that mental barrier that it was okay to spend $400 on a single shirt.
Yep.
And now he's got closets, and that's the only thing. It's Robert Graham. I was like, look at you.
And that's the beautiful thing about that is I've got a bunch of those shirts as well too. And that's what I like to wear if I'm traveling for the most part of speaking. It's just like it kind of across. A suit and tie isn't Bill these days. It is the Robert Graham. He's a rock star real estate investor. Your pink hair is you. Yeah. It's not what, and that's the thing I think most people don't realize out there is everybody has a different kind of drum that beat that we have to beat our own drum to. And you have to find somebody you understand with when you're listening out there. You don't have to do everything the same. It's okay to be unique and stand out, because actually there's enough people that are trying to be the same minions of people out there. Be yourself, add a little flair to it. And then that's actually what's so great about podcasts and videos. And I'm sure you've seen this already, is that people will listen to, they'll identify, they'll build rapport with you because they're actually not the same as everybody else. And that's so critical. And we need that so much. I mean, everybody's so tired of Zoom meetings and it's the same old. Anytime you can be fresh, whether you're drinking with Dawn, okay? Dwan, sorry, my apologies. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Yeah, people from the South do that quite a bit. Actually, people from the South add a syllable. It's Dwan.
Dwan. Yeah. That might be Alabama.
Hey, it's Dwan, one word. Now, all my Southern buddies, everybody, like Texas, Georgia, anyway, they add a whole entire syllable. They call me Dwan. I'm like, hey. Don't call me late for dinner, right? Isn't that an old thing? Right. I love your energy. I just really love what you're doing. And for the folks that are listening, I'm telling you, it's just like notes are they're just such a neat, fun way to make money. And it's different, if you don't want to do the rehabbing, you don't want to be the landlord, even the subject twos, you still have to really there's a lot of follow-up with a lot of that stuff, still. And notes, I think, are sort of like a missing link for a lot of people. I just feel like, in general, people don't think about that as a way to make money, but it is one of the most fun ways, and it's really easy.
Well, everybody gets so tied into the tangible side of real estate. They want to go out, they want to see it, they touch it, they want to pick out paint and carpet, they think. No, you don't really want to do that, because after a while, it's the same old stuff like that. You don't want to deal with toilet stains and trash outs. Nobody calls the bank at 2 a.m. when little Timmy flushes his rubber ducky down the toilet. Nobody calls Bank of America for the chase. And a lot of people get scared investing outside of their market. I'm invested in roughly about 25 to 30 different states in a given time.
Yeah.
I will rarely jump on a plane and go look at properties. I will rely on vendors. There's a ton of vendors out there that do a lot of due diligence for us, putting eyes, ears on properties, stuff like that. So I don't have to jump on a plane. And a lot of people get scared of, I can't touch it. I can't see it. I can't invest in it. Well, if you're in a market like Austin, Texas, where I am, where it's so freaking overpriced and we don't have a lot of distressed debt, what are you going to do for deals? You're going to just sit here and wait around, or you're going to go find where the deals are. And that's, my markets have changed over the years as those markets have changed. Bought a lot in Florida back in the early, late 2000s in God's waiting room.
It's so funny. I haven't heard anybody say that for such a long time, but it really is. There's so many old people down here. My friend lives up. You've heard of the Villages, right? The big golf cart community. So my friend lives up there, and I just went to see her a few weeks ago. And you just forget. It's like, oh my gosh, so many. And then I think, hang on a minute. I'm officially a senior citizen. I am one of those people now. This year, when my birthday came around, I thought, oh my God, across the board, I am officially in all walks of life, a senior citizen. I was like, I don't know how that happens.
Are you getting your senior seat? Have you gone into your old alma mater and gotten the Grand Slam senior discount yet?
Oh my gosh. I do. I have to tell you, it's funny. to Denny's. I still love, even though I got fired from Denny's, I still love to, I love their Grand Slams. Denny's makes like for real the best breakfast. But I was there with my stepmom like a year ago. Like a few years back. And the girl came with the 2 menus. So she has like the regular Denny's menu, has the senior menu. So she hands the senior menu to my stepmother. And she looked at me and she kind of tilted her head. And then she handed me the senior menu. Like she was trying to decide. And I was like, seriously? You couldn't just hand me both? And she's like, well, I was just trying to decide. But like you kind of threw me. But I think you're old enough. I was like, who does that? I said, listen, honey, let me tell you something about making tips here. If you're questionable with a woman, hand her both.
That's right.
Do it because I was sort of, it was like, because she would just sort of looked at me like she was just like, yeah, you're old. So funny. So now where were you raised?
I grew up in South Texas down by Corpus Christi in a small town called Ingleside, which is pretty much famous for if you're a football fan, the founder of the Wishbone offense actually was a head coach there. And not much else new. Naval Station grew up there. My dad owned the local hardware store, opened it up when I was in 4th grade. So I grew up working around people and I have to give big thanks to my parents for work ethic. Yeah. From the time I was in the 4th grade on, I was, cutting pipe and keys and glass and running a register and working with people and building customer service habits from that time on. And so I grew up in a small town and really enjoyed it. It's right on the bay. It's right across from Corpus Christi. And, nice. It was a great area to grow up with. But after I graduated from there, I actually was fortunate enough. I had an academic and an athletic scholarship. I played football for a couple of years up outside of Dallas and did that for 2 years. So I got tired of that. Took a year off to figure out what I wanted to do and ended up going back to school on my own and paying my way through school and got a business degree. And first, I thought I wanted to be the next Dan Patrick from ESPN, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. Yeah. But the business and the entrepreneurial bug has always been in my blood. And so that's kind of the route I went and moved to Austin, Texas in 2001. It's basically been home almost the entire time, except for about, 3.5 years where I was traveling nonstop.
I love Austin. You guys have such a great music scene down there in Austin. Holy cow, I love Austin. I have my best friend in high school lives there. I love Austin. I
hope it comes back. That is the biggest thing. It has been hit so hard here with things, and so many artists have struggled and venues have closed. So it's interesting to see as the city starts to open back up. I hope hope our city council can do some things.
I hope so too. That's always one of my favorite things in Austin. It's just that one big area there, that strip area. There's just so many clubs and live music, and I'm just a gigantic live music fan. Let me share you some age right here. I remember being in Austin. So my best friend from high school ended up living in Austin. So back in my 30s, we went down to the area, the music area. I don't know. I can't remember what it's called down there.
6th Street, down to 6th Street.
Yeah, 6th Street. I saw the Fabulous Thunderbirds. And I thought, man, that band is so good. They really ought to have a record out. And then there they came out a little bit later. I was like, oh, I saw them in Austin. And I know people listening are like, who? Just YouTube it. But I remember seeing them in one of the clubs and thinking, man, this band is so amazing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe you don't even know who they are. I might be really.
I do. I actually, when I was going to college at Texas State or Southwest Texas State, I worked at the Gristmill and Green Hall, which is Texas' oldest working dance hall. Okay. Yeah. So saw them play there, saw Willie Nelson perform, Jerry Jeff Walker, Pat Green, Little Texas, Little Richard actually saw him play there. Jerry Lee Lewis and his baby grand piano playing out there. So love live music, grew up with that. And so, I've seen them, George Strait, all those Texas country guys, but also quite a bit of rock and roll rolling through there. So
yeah. I'm just a really big music fan, but I love live. And I like those little bit, not that they're little venues. I mean, you have giant places down on 6th Street, but just when people are in, those, and I know a lot of really super famous people like to come back to that later because the intimacy is there, the music is there. You're really, the crowd you feel the love off everybody. And I love that. So
I think with musicians that make it, and you say make it where they've got the big grand tour, they like the intimacy because it takes them back to the roots. It takes them back to kind of get. I think investors often go that through. We get so rock and rolling and want to go bigger, and then after a while we're like, I don't really need so big. I lose a lot with my life, and my intimacy of what I'm trying to go. And we kind of have a tendency to scale it back or remove obstacles or distractions to be really more focused on what we want to do. So
I agree, because Bill and I just always like go, 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 go. And then we started working, we went back to his high school reunion in Clinton, Iowa. And so his high school, I can tell you, his high school is really solid. They have a reunion every 5 years. And I mean, 200 people, they all come.
Wow.
I was like, my school had a 10-year, a 20-year, and nothing till 40. So my school's so lame. But we go every 5 years, and I'm seeing this little town. Man, this town like needs some love, And then this last reunion, we're like, we should see what's happening down here. This is a little cute river town. It's on the Mississippi. But as they started expanding, they built like out. It's like the casino's out, the Walmart out, and everything pulled away from the downtown. So we were thinking, we've been flipping houses forever. Let's just do a building. Yeah. And then we were like, okay, well, let's just get a second building. And then now we have 15. And so now it's like, okay, well, we have 15 buildings at once. All of them have stuff happening at once. And we have so much going on. But, and as weird as it seems, it feels like that, like a little bit more intimate, because people in the downtown, they stop in, they see what you're doing. Yep. They take pictures, they put on social media, they write about you in the paper, like, oh, these people are helping like bring back jobs and income and life into this downtown. So it is really one of the most fun things, like one of the fun things that we've done in our career at this point. And it's like, like how many houses can you flip? Like, once you flip 2,000 houses, I feel like you've kind of just done it all.
That's the thing too, is you're doing something, you're actually helping being roots down in a lot of cases and that stuff there. And actually, I know Clinton, Iowa. I've actually modified a couple of loans there. We bought a couple of loans there as part of our portfolio. So I know that, Aaron. Glad to hear that, because it is a great little town. It does need some life brought back to it. And I think so many small towns, and I think it's an opportunity for a lot of investors out there. There's a lot of smaller towns out there that the downtown areas are so amazing, such architecture and history and stories to it, that if you can bring life back to it, I think people want to go back to that. They want to shop local versus the chains and the big things. They want to kind of go back, and it may be a slower pace of life, but you also get a chance to really, that slower pace helps you to smell the roses and really kind of unwind. You know what I mean? It's not all about doing so many things bigger these days. Yeah, it is. And it's funny because as the first building, we thought, well, we'll put an antique mall in there. That'll get people to start coming down. Well, I don't know anything about running an antique mall. I don't even really know what is antique and what's not, but I'm like, okay, but I can use my real estate sense. I got this 8,000 square foot space. I'll rent out the spaces. People bring in their own items. I get someone to run the store. How hard could that be? Boom, 2 years later, we got a kick-ass antique store. It's been in the paper, on TV, like all this stuff. And I'm thinking, like, and I'm like, listen, seriously, I know nothing about the antique business. When I'm in the store and people are asking me questions about items, I just look to the manager, like, I can't even answer your questions. It's just like running an office space. It's just like running an office space. The real estate side, I got this many spaces. I rent them for that much. You all bring your stuff in. I'll run ads. And then I thought, okay, well, we finished another building, so we put in a clothing boutique. Same thing, just renting spaces. Now we have a marketplace. And I'm like, oh my God, Bill, we have to stop. So now we open a farmer's market. It's like every time we finish a building, we're sticking a business in there. But when you end up with 150 vendors, you're helping the whole town thrive, So I was like, okay, I never saw myself owning a bunch of little small businesses, but I do now. So I don't even know how that happened. So I just wanted to kind of just digress back, because you kind of talked about it anyway. When you were like a teenager, so I always like to see what people were thinking as a teenager. Were you like, so you said you were working with your dad, and like, what were you thinking in that age? Like, I'm going to work for somebody, be my own boss. Like, I'm crazy. I'm doing drugs. Like, what were you doing in your teen years? So I was the guy that employed all my buddies on the weekends to do your mowing yards or clearing brush or building fences, or I was, I'd make the joke that I was the slave labor. My dad would have electricians and plumbers come in. If they needed an extra hand, I would hire myself out and I would go dig ditches, or I would go pull pipe, or I would, clean out a septic tank, or I would work on an ostrich farm. So I was always doing jobs to pay for things in my spare time when I wasn't playing sports, and then also working in the hardware store. So that's the thing. And if my buddies needed money, they're like, hey, I need some money. I was like, okay, come work this weekend. You're going to mow some lawns with me, or you're going to go out here and mow and you'll get paid an hourly rate for it. So that's we're always done. I always thought I'd be, like I said, either my dream was to play college football, and I was fortunate enough to do that there. But it was also like, okay, what do I want to do? Like I said, I wanted to be a sportscaster or a business owner, and thought we'd end up owning a bunch of hardware stores, and that didn't work out that way. But that's what I like so much about the podcast side of things. Is really kind of brought me back to the roots of being that sportscaster announcer. Our podcast is syndicated on 17 stations across the country, and we got over 1 million downloads in our 4 years here on a niche side of note investing. It's just kind of a crazy thing. So yeah,
you have 1 million downloads.
I think we surpassed the 1.25 million download mark last month, and then we've got I think over 50 million listeners have listened on the radio station across.
Congratulations! Here I'm like, I got 100,000 downloads.
Hey, you know what? That's great. No, don't. That's the thing. You just starting off. That's great. That's better. You're on a great pace, and you're consistent, and you're delivering content. I got 4 years experience on you. All right, that's no biggie. Yeah. You're doing a great job. And if you're listening to this right now, everybody, make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Yeah.
And make sure to leave a 5-star review for Dwan, and then share it with at least one person. She's doing an amazing job with the episodes and everything.
Look at you, building self-esteem in others. I'm like 1 million. Well, you are my hero, because that is, they always say this many downloads. Once you crack this level, then you crack that level. And I'm like, okay, I got 100,000. So now I need to get a 250,000, then a half. And then when I hit that $1 million, $1 million, I'm calling you first.
Well, that's the thing is, when I started my podcast,
$1 million people.
That was a goal. Like, how do I get 1 million? That sounds like how do I do it? And it's just consistency. You just keep cranking stuff out, and we crank out about 700 episodes. That means I got about 1,300 listeners per each episode over time, and that's great. That's what you have to realize. It all starts with one episode. I would be happy if one download, one person listens to my podcast to begin with. And that's how you build a movement. That's how you build growth, how you build confidence, is just keep showing up, and you never know who's going to listen or who needs to hear what you're sharing out there.
Yeah, no, I remember when I hit my first 100, I was like, woo, 100 people. I was just like dancing around the house. Like, ooh, I got 100. And then when I hit 1,000, I was like, oh my gosh. And then when I hit 100, I was like, oh, so I'm still amazed at every single level. But I really like podcasting. It gives you a chance to really talk about your business and what you do and get to know people. If I met you at a speaking event, we'd be so busy. We might have a drink in the bar for 10 minutes, and I wouldn't even get a chance to really get to know you, So I like this, and I like, especially talking to people that do things I super love, like note buying and stuff. I love note buying. It's such a fun thing. So share with us like one of your, it doesn't have to be the most money, but just like one of your best deals, just ever in your career where you did that deal and you were like, man, that was awesome.
So I'm going to share the story of Sheila and William Drummond out of South Beloit, Illinois. They had lived in their house for over 18 years, and I bought their note, and they owed over 60 grand on a house that was worth 35. They took out a mortgage. When the values went up, they pulled a little cash out. They lived in this house. It's a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 1,600 square foot on about 2 acres outside of the main town there. Yeah. And they were way upside down. Her husband had a heart attack, and they've been trying to do a loan modification for 4 years. Their 3 daughters had grown up in the property. And when we bought it, when we saw the collateral file, they had sent in loan modification documents 4 times. And it's like a loan modification, it's like a short sale file. It's a loan dequalification basically form.
Yeah.
And so I said, but I saw their hardship letter, and the mortgage had been sold 4 times before I bought it.
Wow.
I said, there's a family here who wants to stay in a house, and they're really pleading with somebody just to help them. And so we bought the note. That, like I said, the house was going to be worth 35. They owed over 60. I bought the note for 12 grand. It's part of a cool thing. So I got it cheap. Bought it at 33 cents of value, 20 cents on the dollar, what was up. And actually, I made the phone call. I picked up the phone. Usually I have our servicing team or our team make the phone calls to bars and outreach, but I wanted to actually talk to this. So I called them up. She answered the phone. And I said, hello, Mr. Drummond. My name is Scott Carson. I'm with such and such, Inverse Asset Fund. We just purchased your note from such and such. And you can hear the breath just go out of her. She's like, oh, it's been sold again. I said, whoa. I said, wait a second. I've seen your loan file. I've looked at all the documents. I know you want to stay in a house. I know you're trying. Could you start making your existing payment of $450 a month? Yes. She goes, yes, I could. I was like, okay, could you bring $5,000 to the table? Because you haven't paid in 4 years. Right. I know you're upside down, but can you bring some money? She's like, I can't bring $5,000. I said, well, could you bring 2,500? She's like, yes, I could bring 2,500. Like, great. Could you pay an extra $200 a month for the first 12 months on top of your existing payment? She's like, yeah, I could do that. I said, great, let's do this. I'll tell you what, you bring $2,500 to the closing table or come meet my attorney in not too far from you. Bring $2,500, cashier's check to the table. We'll give you 45 days to make your first official payment, existing payment plus the 200. You make your payments for 12 months like that on time. What I will do is I will, at the end of the year, we'll do an appraisal, see what the value of your property is. We'll adjust the balance on your mortgage. So we'll drop it. If it goes to 40, we'll drop what you owe from 65 down to 40. If it goes to 30, I'll drop it down to 30 for you. And then what I will also do at the end, you make 12 on-time payments, I'll reduce your interest rate to 0%. So every penny you pay goes to principal. So instead of you taking another 33 years to pay off your mortgage, you'll have your house paid off in exactly 6 years.
Wow.
And, she was like, are you serious? I'm like, everything will be in writing. It'll be at my attorney's. We'll have the server set up. I just need you to set up on automatic payments. And that lady, she did it. And I wasn't there, but when she and her husband showed up at the attorney's office, they both broke down crying walking out of there because he was he just gotten hired back and they were starting to work again. And those are the kind of stories I love to hear. And fast forward about 6 months into maybe 9 months, I get a letter from her. And it was just saying, thank you so much for helping us out. Our eldest daughter just had a son. I got my first grandson, so we named him Carson after you.
Oh my gosh.
And so, yeah, it's those kind of stories. Most Americans want to stay in their houses. I mean, I made great return on it. I paid $12,000 for the note. I mean, I've paid $1 million for notes before. I've built $1 million, but it's that those one-off deals like that. I mean, look, I paid $12,000. I got $2,500 basically in 30 days.
Yeah.
She's making $650 a month payment. So 650 times 12 comes to like 8,000. I think, I don't know how much I get, 8,000. So I made almost 80% return on my money. And then she made those payments the first year. So I made like 5 times the amount of money, a 500% return on my money over the time frame. And she just paid off it finally, the last payment like 2 months ago. And if she was going to be a day late, she was like calling, like, listen, you're good. Just follow through. You don't have to call me be a day late. You're not going to lose anything. And that's the thing. Those are the stories we love helping people out there. There's a single mom of 4 kids in Cleveland, Ohio. She owed like $35,000 on her house and it wasn't in good shape. I paid $1,000 for it. It was part of something. I just gave her the house. I said, I don't want to foreclose. It's not worth me. I'm not going to do that. Here, Merry Christmas in July. You can either, file that and go from there. So those are some of the stories that we love doing. I mean, I got a deal right now. The guy owes $1 million on a house. It's worth $750 in Cutler Bay. We're going to foreclose on this guy because he hasn't paid in 3, and roughly actually about 2 years. Right. But, he had the opportunity. He didn't want to follow through on some things. So that's the thing. Like I said, I can be somebody's really, really their best friend. They're knight on a white horse. If they want to be helped, great. If they don't want to be helped, hey, I don't run a charity. I donate to charity.
I'm with you. Gosh, I love that deal. I know those are the kind of deals that I just feel like sort of just make it all worth it. When you have a family like that, they name their child. I mean, their grandkid. Really, what an honor.
It is totally an honor. And that's the thing is, a lot of people, and that's the thing. A lot of funds, a lot of big companies didn't want that note because it wasn't a $100,000 house. It particularly doesn't meet a lot of their boxes. And that's the crumbs that fall through a lot of times. This was a true win-win-win. A win for us, obviously, because a great return, win for the borrower. It was actually a win for the seller because they got this off their books and they weren't spending time on it. It just kind of got kicked down the road. The can was kicked down the road a couple of times. And, there's plenty of Americans out there that need that kind of helping hand these days. And that's what I love about the note industry right now.
I know. I've always loved the note industry, but I really love the fact that you guys are just so in it like that. It's just have everything just so automated, and the fact that you're helping so many people keep houses. That's the whole thing, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. That's such a great story. Oh, that just melts my soul. Sheila and Wayne. All right, putting them all on our prayer list. So tell me, what is your favorite food?
Ooh. Do I have to just name one? I like to cook. So, and that's the thing about COVID. I'm not traveling as much. I've had a chance to cook more, but I'm a big fan of sushi. Sushi's great. Mexican food here in Austin, Texas, some of the best Mexican food out here. But I do have, and there's nothing wrong with a great cheeseburger or chicken tenders is my kind of, cheap food, I guess you could say. But
you and I can eat out really easy together because sushi is always my first option, but my husband doesn't like it. So if we go eat together, it's always a compromise of something. I mean, he'll go with me, but then he's sort of picking it. He just doesn't like it. I'm like, sushi's my favorite thing.
Sushi's good. We've got a restaurant down the street here that we've become really good friends with the owners, and they just do a great job. It was funny. I went in there last night and got food to go, and they were like, "Oh, here, you take drink home for Stephanie. It was her birthday. Take drink home. Take a each there. They're throwing extra stuff in. We love it. It's tasty. I'm hungry about an hour later, but
I eat just unhealthy amounts of salmon, I think, at this point in my life. Who is your favorite band of all time?
Oh, favorite band of all time?
All time, just one.
Guns N' Roses.
Oh,
Guns N' Roses, yes. Little Axl Rose and Slash. And I've seen them perform actually saw them perform twice in Vegas not too long ago, a couple years back in Vegas at the Hard Rock. Well, it's now the Virgin Hotel, but the Hard Rock at the Joint.
I loved when Guns N' Roses came out. It was like, I felt like rock has sort of, not that it had changed, but it wasn't the same. Like Guns N' Roses came out, they were like a solid, like a rock band.
Yep. Then a Motley Crue as well, both. I mean, both are like 1-2 neck for neck for most of the time. But yeah, I love them both.
Where is your favorite place that you've ever been, but where's your place that when you go to this place, you're just like, I love this spot?
That would be actually my backyard. We don't have a big, huge yard here in Austin, Texas. And with traveling, I was very glad not to have a big backyard. But since we've been home so much, we've converted our backyard really into kind of an oasis, a tropical place with bird. Now, it used to be just kind of a wall, the small thing here, but now we've converted it. We've got banana palms and we've got all sorts of flowers. I'm growing tomatoes and cucumbers and all sorts of vegetables. And it's just every morning before you and I were on here, that's what I was doing outside, just kind of relaxing. The squirrels are coming up, eating at the feeders, and we got all sorts of birds. And we've got those wind chimes out there. So it's a great place to kind of center myself every morning. I get up, get the coffee, feed our four-legged kids. And then I go sit outside for half an hour and just kind of unwind and get ready to rock and roll and attack the day.
That's right. I love that. So speaking of centering ourselves, at the end of every show, I have a thing called the 5 equities of life. And so my regular listeners know it's financial, spiritual, physical, mental, and family. And I feel like, kind of all those pieces put together sort of make us a whole person. And yep. I know that people can get really distracted and be, too into this and sacrificing over there. So I always like to give out a life equity and an assignment. And all my Dwanderful people know that I just ask them to do it for a week. And if they like it, keep it. And if they don't, that's okay, because at least they did something for a week that just kind of shakes up their system a little bit. But I like our guests to honor us with that. So what is our life equity? And just so you know, I really don't ever find out until right now when you say it. So yep. Everybody's watching, like, oh, she has to know ahead. I really don't. I want to hear it just like everybody else is going to hear it. I want to hear it for the first time. So what's our equity, what section, and what's our assignment?
The equity, it would be your mental, your well-being, and the assignment is to not listen or watch the news for a week. Get rid of your cable. I mean, we got rid of cable. We got rid of cable over a year ago now and stopped watching the news. I mean, I'll get on USA Today or CNN back and forth a little bit to see both sides, but stop watching the news. It's not there for you. It's programmed. I hate to say this, but it's not news. It's kind of programmed. And it's when you look at all the different channels around, but they're all saying the same thing and they're not all centered. So stop watching the news. If you're dealing with anxiety and stress about COVID and all the shots or travel and things like that, or political stuff, do yourself a favor and stop watching that stuff. Stop reading it, delete it off, or just spend 7 days instead of an hour of watching news. Spend 7 days outside, just relaxing, go for a walk, do something. You will notice a big difference at the end of 7 days.
I love it. That is so true. because the news is just nothing but negative. The world's blowing up. We're all dying. It's all horrible. And then you walk outside, it's like, okay, well, I feel like things look okay around me, but the news keeps you, good one. That's the first time anyone's ever given that one. And I like that. And I 100% agree with that. And just tell us one more time how people can reach you.
It's really easy. You can go to our main website, weclosenotes.com, and check out all the things that we've got going on, whether it's our podcast or classes or things like that. And if you want to, you can always go to talkwithscottcarson.com and schedule a 30-minute phone call. I'm always glad to bend an ear and help people educate a little bit more about notes, or share with them the power of being in the paper game.
And do you have some sort of a program?
I do. I teach different workshops, and I'd love to do that. If you, I have a 1-day workshop that I teach that's a kind of an intro to note investing, and we call it Note Weekend. If you go to noteweekend.com, it's normally $49. We give over 1,000 bonuses. It's 1 day of me teaching. It's always the third Saturday of the month. If you type in Dwan's name, DWAN, you'll get it for free.
Hey, I love free stuff. And
Yeah.
I super love notes. And so I'm telling you guys, you want to get into the new fun arena of the real estate investing. You've not heard about notes before. This is not you got to have $1 million to invest with hedge funds. This is like real note buying. This is what real investors do.
Yep.
All right. So Scott, I'm going to do a little summary and see if we have been able to get inside the mind of Scott Carson today. So you have to tell me how I did. All right. So you are the note guy. You're 44. You live in Austin. You have done over $1 billion worth of notes. You've been doing it for about 13 years. You have been compared to Chuck Woolery from The Matchmaker, which I love that. And you are in Texas. When you were young, you were mowing, doing brush, working on just anything with your dad. And your best deal was Sheila and Wayne, which is really a great deal. And you're able to help them actually pay off and keep their house. Did college football, got a business degree. You just bought an awesome package for $4,500. Houses.
Bought it. I haven't bought them. I'm looking at them. I haven't bought them.
Looking at it. Okay. And you love sushi. You love Guns N' Roses. And your favorite place is your backyard, when that's where your happy spot is in your soul. And you want us to do a mental equity and not watch any news for the week. And you have an amazing podcast. You're on 17 stations. You have over 1 million downloads, and you are just rocking along in the note business.
Got it. Sounds about right.
Is that about right? And you're a super nice guy.
I've been called that. I have my moments, as we like to say.
I think we all have our moments. So you know what? You really are. You really have a good heart. I really love your heart, and you have a good spirit. And the fact that you're also dedicated to helping people, I think that makes you special.
Well, I was very fortunate back prior to getting into banking, but getting into notes and being an investor. I flopped. I fell flat in my face, and I was able to get out of that and had, learning the note business. I had a mentor along the way for 4 years that taught me, and I always made a conscious effort that if I could make it, or get to where I could help people, it was one of the big things that is give back. So the good Lord answered my prayers and got me out of a bad situation, got my assets out of a sling, and I'd like to try to give back as best I can.
Yay. All right, guys. So thank you for being a guest on the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. And everyone, Scott and I both run podcasts. So we appreciate you giving us 5 stars. We appreciate you writing reviews for us, because part of what we do is to help educate you and help you all make more money and be more successful in whatever area of real estate investing that you're in. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you have not jumped into the note side of things, this is your guy right here. And you will love it. And now that we're talking, I'm like, gosh, I want to buy some notes again. I haven't done it for a minute. I've been so occupied with my buildings, but it is super fun. So, so do you have like a parting word of wisdom?
The only thing that you guarantee by not taking action is failure. So if you're sitting on the sidelines wanting to do something, go take action. You'll learn more by actually taking action. If you fail, guess what? Good for you. You're on that first step to success.
Amen. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the most wonderful real estate podcast ever. Again, thank you, Scott, so much. I really enjoyed getting inside that mind of yours. And everyone, remember that the truth is in the red letters. And we'll be back next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Ciao, everybody. Goodbye, Scott. Thank you again, honey.